Greetings and welcome, everyone. I'm Phelan Hawkins, and I am the host of the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth Show. And you're here today with me and our guest, Nancy Arenas. And I'm really, I don't know if I can say I'm excited to be in this conversation as I have been in others, but I am excited to be in this conversation because we're going to talk about something that most people aren't talking about, and that's the real life of veganism. And our topic today is sprouting compassion, new life in the vegan pulse. And I'll explain more about that in just a moment. But let me tell you a little bit about Nancy. Not only is she just totally awesome, she is a vegan lifestyle advocate, a vegan health nutrition coach, executive director of Sprouting Compassion, vegan nonprofit organization, and host of the amazing podcast, Vegan Pulse. She's also, I just found out, an ordained reverend. And her spirituality shows how deeply it runs throughout her. She's the founder and the organizer of the Albuquerque VegFest event that's going to be happening in August 2022, the first time live in 2 years since the start of COVID. And she's happy to be back with that growing population of vegans because she's having more opportunity to help people experience the truth around veganism, educating them and promoting the vegan lifestyle. And she's here to share her story, her passion for being vegan, and the impact that she's helping to forge to help heal people, animals, non humans, and the planet. And I just want to say, Nancy, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, let's just get right into it because I've got a few really, really juicy questions for you. And my first one is tell us about your journey. How did you get started on this road to veganism and the big compassion principles that you're sharing now?
Great question. To begin a show, your journey. My journey started unbeknownst to me when I was in college. My friend Mike, he was vegan and he would invite me to lunch. And I would say, thank you, but you bring your food, I'll bring my own. I'm not a rabbit, I got canines, and all those kinds of witty answers that people receive from non-vegans. And then 9 years ago, he visited me here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was so excited to let him know that at this time I was vegetarian and waiting for my kudos to arrive. And he said, well, that's better. And I was so disappointed because I was waiting for all these praises. And I was like, well, what's the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian? And that's when I say that I found the Pandora box that I opened, because that is when I made the link or connected the links I had about the exploitation and the torture of the animals. And all of a sudden, it was like one of those aha moments that you get. And I realized that I've been contributing to the torture and suffering of all these animals. And I am a 70s hippie from New York. And my thing is harmony, peace for everybody, kumbaya, all those kinds of things. And surely this did not align with that. But I had not made the connection until then. And then when I did, I decided that I would go vegan and started doing amends to the animals by starting the Veg Fest. I have 2 magazines, New Mexico Vegan for adults, 1-2 Vegan for kids, my podcast, Vegan Pulse, and Cooking with Compassion at Natural Grocers to demonstrate to people how easy it is to cook vegan. And that's in a little short snippet.
Well, that is totally amazing. And I mean, I let's throw in there, when did you become a reverend and how did that happen?
So it started, I was living in Florida, and there you could be a notary and perform weddings. When I moved here to New Mexico, that was not the case. So I was looking for a way to do that, and I became a minister with Minister Reverend with Universal Life Church. And so I took some of their courses and became a certified minister reverend. And I've been doing that now for over 16 years. I wanted to be a part of happy days. You know, when you go to a wedding is one of the individual's happiest moments and days. And I thought, how wonderful is that to participate in people's best days?
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Yes.
And
Does.
then, yeah, and then from there, then when I became vegan, then I took it a little bit further and started to research more. And so I'll do memorials for pets, or for companions, rather. I don't want that word pet. We need to change our language, for companion animals and things like that, and want to do more. And now I also host a vegan support group, Heart and Soul Vegan Support Spiritual Group, where people come and we just talk about the day to day and what it is like to live as a vegan in a non-vegan world.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Um, and I guess that that's a great segue into my next question, which, you and I have spoken, and I mentioned to you that, a few years back when I started hearing more vegans speak, um, and questions for me because I was a proclaimed pescatarian, vegetarian, whole food, plant based, but not a vegan. Um, and realizing that there was a huge missing link in the understanding about veganism. And when I did the work with Hippocrates Docs, and we created the Just One Thing for Health program, the free email series that just one thing for health.com, just one thing for health.com. Shameless plug, thank you. Um, I was my first introduction to the compassionate spirit brought in by veganism and the work that was being done, the organizations that have been formed that are promoting the non harmful treatment of animals, especially animals that are being bred and herded and slaughtered for food. And, I'd always known that it was this big money business. And like pharmaceuticals, there was going to be another big piece of the ship that needed to be turned in order to make a difference. But someone mentioned to me, well, I happened to start seeing some visuals there, but someone happened to mention to me, she's like, I have 3 dogs and I could never imagine raising dogs to be taken to slaughter for food, gourmet or whatever. And that's what's happening to cows and pigs and chickens and, lambs. And I thought, oh my God, I could see that and how I was participating in that, much like yourself. And I wanted to ask you, how is it that you see that veganism, I guess, kind of lost their way? Because I believe that more people view veganism as being about the food versus having this whole entire other component. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on how that separation might have happened and what was lost and how we can maybe even bring it back together again.
In, let's say, when I first became vegan, I became vegan for the animals. And as soon as my friend Mike told me and I made the connection, I just stopped right there. That was the beginning of it. And some people might stop at that and think, well, I don't eat animals, so I'm vegan and now I live a vegan life. But the truth is that as I learn more, I did say that I opened up a Pandora's box that came out. I learned that veganism is so much more than just what you're eating. And yes, we welcome any vegan for any reason, planet, animals, health, or food. But the truth is, veganism is, to me, a message of love, is a social justice movement and not a diet. And people sometimes, I think, get to that part, and maybe it's been a hard journey to get to that part, and maybe they'll be stuck there for a while, or maybe they'll just stay there forever. But the truth is that there's more. Veganism is a way of living, a way of holding yourself accountable for your footprints on the earth. Also, it is about how you interact with others. And it's not just animals, it's other humans. And we need to be kind at all levels, because people get into little snippets and of fights about, I'm a vegan for this, I'm a vegan. It's not who's the best vegan. It's how do we make small changes to make big changes in the world so that we will eventually evolve to have a vegan world where people are more compassionate, where animals are free, where our grandkids and their kids can have a livable world. And I think that it's kind of baby steps for some people. Some people go full on. Like when I first started, I wanted to learn more. And then when I learned more, then there was this other connection, and it was connected to the planet, climate change. And then it was this connection to the animals. And then it was this connection to the spiritual side, because think about it. If you're eating animals, you're ingesting another being who wanted to live. Not only that wanted to live, but you're ingesting all their fear that they experience at their death and all their torture during their lifetime. And as a spiritual person myself, that's not what I want. I do not want to make my body a grave for anyone. So it's just, I guess, baby steps that we have to start, like moving on to the next and reminding people, okay, now you've gotten to this level, let's go to the next level. It's like your lessons or videos, perhaps in the one thing for health. You see one, you go to the next one and you learn more, and then you learn more. And I hope that when people speak to me and I try to give them information and resources for becoming vegan, that they will go ahead and get interested and then go on themselves to learn more and more, because there's just so much, and it's not just a diet. And I wish people would understand that.
Well, I so appreciate your perspective and sharing that because, it goes back to the you can't do or change what you don't understand. And I think that even while a lot of people understand I'll take the cows, the cow farm and the cow farm is different than the dairy farm and the way that the animals are treated and then herded to either slaughter or being further injected to have more babies, and then those babies get snatched away from them. I think more people are aware of that, but we're also desensitized to it because we are more sensitized to the effects of sugar and salt and cheese and, the things that Big Ten food has been able to put in front of us and indoctrinate us in. And, words have power, and the savory taste that they have been able to spray words over as it relates to meat. We haven't necessarily been as successful in doing that over the non-meat foods. And I think that we're just getting to that, because I have to tell you that being vegan, having come through this journey and just staying as long as I did in the vegetarian space, I just was introduced to vegetables in such a more dynamic way. We were growing up, it was vegetables on your plate. Eat your vegetables. You better eat your vegetables. And it wasn't something that was supposed to be good. I mean, eat your vegetables. Don't you taste how sweet they are? And that kind of thing didn't happen for us. So, how could we expect to, as we were growing up, relate to it that way? And it really has been an unlearning of some things and a relearning the truth, as you had mentioned. And, as I think about how the vegan world is right now, it's huge, which was also surprising to me. It's huge. And I think I mentioned one of the things for me, and I would imagine for many people, is that, someone said that I had one person tell me they were vegan, yet they had eczema. And I thought, wow, if you're eating all of these great foods, how do you have eczema? Because I knew that the right foods, could cure eczema. And then I thought, somebody else was vegan and they were 50 pounds overweight, and somebody else was 100 pounds overweight. And like, it didn't quite equate for me. And so I spent years in this space of no, not vegan, because it didn't look like it was the right space that I wanted to be. And I was an athlete, all of my years. And even getting back into my athleticism, I'm like, vegans, I don't know. Until oh, someone opened my eyes to the other aspects of veganism. And let's talk about some of the things that are happening to promote veganism in the right way, like your Veg Fest. Is this you said you had done it before, and I know that you've done it a couple of years before, because before COVID and then COVID, you went virtual. Tell us a little bit, how did you get started in the Veg Fest areas, really?
One of my duties at my current job is event organizing. So as I stated before, I wanted to make an amends for the animals. So I was trying to find every which way that I could. So I started with my magazine, New Mexico Vegan. And the premise is that I want to just get stories from people on any topic that had to do with veganism. I didn't want to make it so that it had all these recipes about, there is some recipes in there, but it wasn't about recipes. It wasn't about diet per se, but instead all aspects, because I wanted people to understand that veganism is not just about plant-based eating. And then next, I started helping with the Vegans in the Park. It's a little group, a little potluck that we do, seasonal. We take different parks in Albuquerque and we go there and we meet, and we call it Vegans in the Park, VIPs. And seeing the children there that come with the families, then I thought, okay, I could do a kids magazine to support them. And that magazine, the premise is not so much about selling them on anything, but rather giving them encouragement, showing them how they can do activism at school, book reports, book fairs, things like that. And then I said, what else can I do? Because like I said, I wanted to make amends to the animals in any which way I can. And I was one of those people that if you just, what was that? You said vegan? Oh, you want me to talk about veganism? I just wanted to spread the word because I didn't say this before, but when I went vegan for the animals, a month after to the date, I no longer had fibromyalgia. All my swelling joints disappeared, my bursitis, my migraines. So I became pain-free, and I had not had that forever. I always lived in pain with fibromyalgia. And I thought, doctors are not promoting this, the government isn't promoting this. So is there one person who can do it? Oh, I am one person. And I started doing the cooking classes. And then I thought, okay, Red and Green VegFest. There's no VegFest like that here in New Mexico. So let's start it. So I brought in a couple of speakers and we have some vendors. And then make it a day, proclamation from the city that is Red and Green VegFest Albuquerque Day, and things of that nature, so that people could come and network. People could come and find other vegans. Because as I was tabling in the beginning, I would have people come up to me and says, oh, I didn't know there was another vegan in Albuquerque. And there were two small groups here, a couple of small groups here, but they weren't like known by everyone. And so I thought, if I have a space and I invite people to come, and then they could share their information and it builds the community. So this will be our 7th year. And the last 2 years, because of COVID, we had it virtually, which was good and bad because we were able to go out of Albuquerque. And we had speakers like Carol Adams, Salesh Rao, and Will Tuttle, and other people. We had Seb Alex, and all these wonderful people who were able to join us virtually because some of them were around the world, but I've also have had Jean Christian Jury in one of our first Veg Fest here, who came from Germany. He's a chef who had the best vegan restaurant in Germany at one point in time. We had Dr. Caroline Trapp from Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine. So we have had great speakers, and it's been a blessing because I've gotten to be able to meet all these wonderful people with so many different stories. And you know, life is about stories, everybody's stories, and everybody has one to tell. And so I'm excited to go back in person because we were just getting over that, you know, that little curve that you need to get more people in when COVID hit. And so I'm excited to go back, and hopefully we can start from there and not have to build up again from ground zero. And we're going to have speakers and vendors, and now we have more food vendors because we have vegan food trucks. So it should be wonderful, and I can't wait. August 20th.
I'm excited. August 20th, 2022. Great numbers, by the way, as well. And so what is your favorite meal, your favorite vegan dish? And is it your personal recipe or something that you got from someone else?
Okay. My favorite dish is the one I'm eating the moment I'm eating it.
I love that. I love that.
And the reason why is I really haven't missed anything. Everything I ate before I became vegan, I eat now, except it's veganized. And we had mentioned something, you know, there are products out there being sold, Impossible Burgers, Beyond Meat, Hungry Planet, all these organizations, which is great. And the reason why I say it's great is because it's a great intro into a whole food plant-based diet for those people who can't do without meat, right? Or so-called. And I think that that's a gateway. And to me, because you were talking about the salt and the sugar and the sauce, every time I look at a commercial, and we've spoken about this before, all you see is people selling you cheese and sauce and salt and sugar, none of which are healthy for you. But when you see it, oh, your eyes wide open, right? Your mouth starts to water a little.
Mhm.
And that's because that's what you've been conditioned
Mhm.
to look for. These are not products that are going to make you healthy. And, sometimes I ask, well, people will say, well, I feel fine. I feel good. Okay. You feel good right now. And you feel fine right now. But imagine if you just for 30 days went on a whole food, plant-based diet and see how you feel after that. And then come back. Let your body be your own judge, because I know what your body's going to say. So I don't have to tell them that, but I can say, just let yourself be your own judge. And for me, since I went vegan, I'm not one for all those sauces and all that cheese and all those things. I want to taste my food. Those vegetables that you were talking about, they have their own special flavors and taste. And just with a little dab of this and a little dab of that, that can bring out all those wonderful flavors, that is all you need. And it's so funny because I was having a conversation the other days with someone on the Vegan Pulse, and I had asked them a question, and they said, well, I like to have those, not so many sauce now. And during the conversation, I said, well, that's such a great way to tell people, just have the food, the taste. And I says, that is so great. Kudos to you. And she said, well, I learned that in your cooking class. And I said, what? She goes, yeah, when you do your cooking with compassion classes, I learned that in your class. And I was like, I totally forgot. And that's what I do tell the people that come to my classes. I show them how to do under 30 minutes vegan cooking. And you don't have to find a new recipe. Take what you already know and switch out things that have animal products for things that do not. And you'd be amazed how easy then it is to go vegan. But when you're thinking, oh, I got to go vegan, I got to find out what recipe do I make? Where do I get recipes? Where do I get this? You don't have to. I mean, you can if you want for special occasions, but my advice is stick with what you know, because that's going to help you stick to that whole food plant-based eating. If you're trying to do this and that recipe and this recipe, you get frustrated. It's not new. It's new to you rather. Then it becomes a little bit more like, oh, I got to work. I want to make it easy for you. I want to make it easy peasy, lemon squeezy, 30 minutes and under vegan cooking. And do what you already know and just switch out stuff, and you'll see how amazing it will be.
I love that. That was one of the things I think that got me to doing the whole food plant-based so easily, because I loved the vegetables and the cruciferous vegetables, and blending them together and making like a little vegetable stew kind of thing. Even to have over rice and my blueberries, and I put blueberries in quinoa kind of thing. So, it's that not being afraid to test these things out. And I love how you brought in that we're our own best experiment, because I believe that we are. One of the things that convinced me that I was on the right track was because I had such a great result from leaving the chicken wings alone, and just doing, and whether it was, a lot of people have this, well, do I do raw, do I do cooked? is it better to do one or the other? And how do I know? Um, all of that is what creates that space where we do nothing and we go back to the old ways. And I just love how you said my favorite meal is the one I'm having. I love that. And if I think more people thought about it like that, we'd also look at the meal that we have in front of us differently. And, do me a favor and speak to, you've got this beautiful meal in front of you. Most of us are in so much of a hurry. How do we shift that to really focus on that meal? How do you focus on that meal that you're about to have?
And that I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing, being in the moment in whatever you're doing. So for me, when I'm cooking, like, I will not cook when I'm mad. I don't want those intentions in my food. So I just kind of have a little, I call it a little conversation with my food as we're cooking, and trying to get them to kind of be friends and harmonize together and just have this chorus that comes out in flavor at the end of it all. So I like to blend different spices and herbs in my food to get different heightened and subtle tastes within it. So I guess that would be savory. So sometimes you'll like have a spoon and you'll go, oh, and then you have another spoon and all of a sudden you get a little hint of something else. And it's like an adventure, it's like an exploration. And you can't do that if you're just, here's my plate, here's my food, yep, shove it in your mouth and eat it and you're done. So for me, it's like a whole trip when I'm doing my my cooking. I'm in with the food at the moment. We are in this together. We are being a team to produce some healthy foods. I intentionally make sure that I have spices in there for health benefits in all my food. And I also incorporate things that other people might not incorporate in different kinds of things like chia and hemp seeds and flaxseed and things like that, nutritional yeast. Although if you've never met someone who has too much B12, now you have. My doctor said, you've heard of B12 deficiency? That's not me. So, so now you've met one person in real life that does not have B12 deficiency. But I think that you have to, everything you do, you have to do with intention. You have to do it with your mindset. Why are you doing it? It's like when you change a habit or when you are aspiring to do something. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do it because somebody else does it. You have to have an intention. Otherwise, more than likely, you're going to fail. You're not going to keep with it. Like when people make New Year resolutions, they just make it for making them. But unless you have a real intention within you why you're doing it, for me, I'm doing this for the animals. And any chance I get, I'm going to advocate for them. And yes, we need a better world to live in, water to drink, air, but we have to kind of own up to what we've done to the animals and stop it. It is just too cruel, too much. And it's about time that we have to change all of this. But it all goes back to changing dialogues, watching what we say and when we say it, and how we say it. Because if you let things go, like if somebody says, kill two birds with one stone, well, no, how about feed two birds with one stone? Let's change it. Let's not make it a habit to, you were saying before that we normalize violence. Well, this is kind of normalizing violence as well when you say those things. I don't call my dogs my pets. They're my companions. They're my companion animals. They're part of my family. They're not pets. They're more than that. So we have to start ourselves becoming aware of the new language that we have to forge forward so other people can hear it as well. It's not just for you, but for others, so that they can start thinking about, what did she say? Did she just say, instead of, so it's a lot of those things. It's also, if you're in a position to, and everyone's in a position to advocate for veganism, whether it's signing a petition, whether it's liking a post, sharing a post, inviting people to speak, any of those things are a way of advocating for veganism. Sharing food is a great way to advocate for veganism. And we have to do that. But if you are on a student council, a parent teachers association, council person, we need to speak up. We need to have people to go ahead and join those groups, because we also need to start changing laws. And those are the only places we could do it. We have to voice our opinions, tell it to our, House representatives, our senators. And if you don't speak up, they're not going to hear you.
I totally agree. And that is really what makes it so important for us to come together, to collaborate, and create the larger voice. And in larger, we do become louder, and in louder, we do become the voice to be heard. And there is, you and I were talking about the fact that if if the number of animal agricultural farms were lessened, we could produce more food for people. I mean, real food for people, to where we could get to a point. I know I've talked about this with Bob Hoffman before. We could get to a point where there would be no starvation in the world. We would be able to feed everyone, and no one would be lacking food, meaning no one would be going without, but there wouldn't be the issues that we have either with obesity and chronic illness and heart disease, the number one killer of men and women. There's just so much in the way of the studies that have been done that actually prove that a plant-based diet and lifestyle is not only prevention and reversal of disease, but it is the proponent that actually lengthens life. And when you think about that, wouldn't it be great if we could lengthen our own lives and the lives of non-humans, animals, birds, the fish in the ocean, and make the planet happier by doing it? Sure, we would yield much more in the way of plant food. The earth just amazes me. And there's a way to tell if the earth likes something or not, right? When you're farming animals, the changes that happen to the ground when there's too many animals on a ground, it devastates the ground. The soil dies. It doesn't even grow the kind of plants that those animals feed on. Yet when you're growing vegetables and fruit, those crops continually reproduce. And I think that in itself, if you're weighing it, then the animal agriculture just drops to the ground, where the plant agriculture just lifts itself up. The amount of water that it takes to run an agricultural farm is overly excessive. Um, Probably as conspiracy theorist, I heard once say that we would run out of water if we continue to raise the animals that are going to slaughter. And then to think about it, we think about them going, and we can have these beautiful steaks and chops and all this stuff. But, and you brought this out so beautifully, these animals are suffering when they're doing it like that. How do you think that we got into this besides money?
How we got into this mess? Conditioning, on top of conditioning, and top of conditioning. So I always say, no one is to blame. We were all, well, I was a flesh eater before, but I made the connection finally, and everybody has, I guess everybody has a key that unlocks that lock. And mine was the animals 9 years ago. Somebody else might be, they connect because of their health. I've had that where I know people who've become vegan because they had a heart attack, they had heart surgery and so forth. And so the key for them was that heart problem. And when you were talking about the degradation of the soil, it's not just the soil, it's also the air and the water around slaughterhouses. And they're usually housed in minority communities because they won't put one of those on Beverly Hills. How would you like, a Kardashian to go, oh, you can't do that there, but they don't listen to the voices of people of minority because they figured we don't have money. Our voices are not as strong, or our dollars more realistic. And so when people talk to me about that, I'm like, because they'll say, oh, you don't care about the animals more than people. No, I care about everybody the same. I care about everyone the same, the animals and the humans and everyone. But I talk more about the animals because they don't have a voice. Right. Because you won't listen to them. They've tried to tell us nobody is, well, we are paying attention to them, but nobody else. And so I speak for the animals, but I also speak for humans because especially I am Hispanic. And, when people say, oh, in minority places, that's where you could get away with things where you couldn't get away with people who have money or people who are privileged, the new word, right? Mm-hmm. But it's sad to think that I hear these stories of people who can't breathe, who have asthma, who can't come out of their houses because the smell is horrendous. Mm-hmm. Things like that. I think that maybe if you think that animal agriculture is such a great thing, that you should go live in that area for a while and let's see how wonderful you think it is after a year. I'm not talking about a month because, you could say, oh, I could do it for a month, but let's get real. Let's talk about this. And we have to talk about it because now animal agriculture is not about just them, that industry. It's about the planet. It's about you. It's about me. It's about my grandchild. It's about the animals and the earth. Because right now what they're doing is they're destroying our planet. Mm-hmm. And they're making it an unlivable planet. And as far as water, we already have a water shortage. There are places where people are fighting for a bottle of water because there's no clean water. And so it's already happening. And if somebody doesn't think about it because it isn't happening right here, right now, well, let's take the example of COVID. Started way in China. And guess what? We're all now having to deal with that. So people forget we're so interconnected, and what you do to one person, you do to yourself. What you do to the animal, you do to yourself. And it has to do with people who have money and are profiting from these industries that are fighting tooth and nail, right? Because they want to keep making money. Mm-hmm. And how easy it is to make money out of the suffering of others, especially when you just keep breeding them, raping them, and just keep using them, right? Nobody's going to tell you can't do it. And so it's easy. You're making money off the suffering of other people. That is just unacceptable to me. And now we need to pull the blinders off of everyone and disconnect them from the matrix that they're hooked up to. Mm-hmm. And we need to move on. And do we have it in for the farmers and people who are animal agriculture? No, we're trying to let you know that this is something that perhaps you came into because your family, but now it's a new time, a new day, a new era. And there are places that you could turn to transition out of that torture business. There's transformation.org, which helps ranchers, and a lot of them have already taken their help and have transitioned to growing soy, almond, or other things. And so we're not telling you you can't make money, but you don't have to kill the planet and us while you're doing it.
Right.
And, you know, people don't even understand that vegans are fighting for everybody's health. We're fighting for you, and you're fighting us for fighting for your health and the planet. That's a disconnect right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that was so good, Nancy. Um, as we're wrapping up our show, is there some wisdom that you'd like to impart to the audience that we can take away with us and really hold on to in thinking and potentially making a change in our own lives if we're not there yet, or we're at the beginning of the journey to help us to do it in a stronger, more powerful way?
Well, first thing, I want to remind everyone that any small step forward is a step forward. So please don't criticize little steps, because they lead to bigger steps. Second of all, is a challenge. If I get an invitation from a cancer association or a diabetes association asking me for a donation or to attend one of their events, I write back and I said, are you promoting a whole food plant-based diet? And if they write back that they're not, then I say, I'm sorry, I do not support organizations that are not, promoting a plant-based diet, because diabetes can be reversed sometimes or alleviated with a whole food plant-based diet, as well as heart disease and other chronic illnesses. So if these organizations are saying that they are promoting that and working for that, then they should be the first ones in line promoting whole food plant-based diets, and we need to change that. And I guess I have a lot of stuff I could say, but that's my two main challenge. And my last one I'll leave you with is this. Try it. Just take the food that you already make, keep it simple, keep it just silly. You know that KISS, keep it simple, silly, or keep it silly, simple, whatever that is. Keep it that way. Just take out the products that have animal ingredients out of the dishes that you're already making it, and swap them out, and you'll see that you are going to love it. And your taste buds change as well. So once you get rid of the conditioning of the salt and the sugar and all those things that are bad and people have pushed down your throat for so many years, you're going to get an appreciation, I know I have, for the taste of actual real food. The taste that comes from the vegetables themselves, that are, as you said before, savory, delicious, whatever it is. You can find all of it. You could find salty, pungent, sweet, all natural in these fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. What a great way to send us off after this conversation. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for being with us today. This has been great. And for our audience, if you're someone who's just starting out, someone who's curious, who wants more information, go to justonethingforhealth.com. You'll be able to sign up for the free email series. It's a 12-week email series, and you will get a lot of the information that Nancy shared with us. Follow Nancy below this video. Her LinkedIn link will be posted there, along with her nonprofit, and you can find her and connect with her. If you're in the Albuquerque area, I highly recommend connecting with her. I know she's got some other really big things that are happening that are coming up. And share the show. share this with people that you care about who are in this conversation or thinking about this conversation or want to know more so that they can do more and do better. And don't forget to join us next week for another show because we've got some really great things coming up. This show is really all about being in the conversation of using food and lifestyle as medicine because we can, it works. It's the healthy journey versus pills and medications being the unhealthy, the sick care industry. And so, again, follow us, share us, connect with us, and be with us again next week when we have another show for you. Hi, I'm Velyn Hawkins. I'm your host, and have a wonderful day. And don't forget, be well, live, love, and be a bigger positive impact maker in your world. Bye for now.